The families of two black women killed in Bridgeport, Connecticut are joining together to get justice for their loved ones. Lauren Smith Fields and Brenda Lee Rawls died on December 12, 2021. The detectives on both cases are suspended pending investigations. Both families and a couple of Bridgeport council members are demanding the city take these actions. The Bridgeport acting police chief, Rebecca Garcia, should be removed, and Mayor Ganim and the police commissioner to formally join families, Attorney Crossland, elected officials, and the community in submitting a formal letter to the United States Department of Justice requesting they take over investigations. And the Fields family attorney, Darnell D. Crossland, is joining us, and we thank him for joining us here today with us. Mr. Crossland, our first question that's most important is, give our audience an overview about how two tragedies can seemingly happen simultaneously and yet have such little attention be paid to them.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and thank you for giving this, these cases the voice that it needs. From the day that these women were found dead in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the city has failed to properly investigate their death. And by failing to do so, what we mean is the city failed to notify the families from the beginning that they were dead, which is a part of the city's protocol. Both families should have been notified within 24 hours of their death. Since that time, no evidence has been preserved in either scenes. No proper interviews of the last known individuals who were with the deceased have been done. And what we know now is that the acting chief of police has submitted a letter explaining to the police commission, who's over the police department, what her role is or what her views are. And I hope we can talk about that tonight.
Oh, absolutely. But one of the initial things when we first hear this, Mr. Crossland, families weren't even notified. That, for those of us who may be very far removed from law enforcement, that seems like standing operating procedure. How does something as obvious as that slip through the cracks?
Yeah, we believe it's either a combination of incompetence and straight out racial insensitivity, or just straight out incompetence, because it's protocol and it's respect and it's dignity. If someone dies, you notify the next of kin. Oftentimes, you would look in the media and the media will not report the victim's name because next of kin has not been notified. So we know it's just a standard operating procedure. In this particular case, they discarded these black women like they were garbage and just kept it moving, and that's unacceptable.
And so, and there was some of the initial request. Obviously, we know about the desire and the demand for the chief of police to step down or resign or be pushed out. But what are some of the other demands that those families and yourself are looking for out of Bridgeport, Connecticut?
Well, I can tell you this: the 4-page letter that the acting chief submitted to the commission, to me, it seemed like a letter that went from a child to the parent. When you read the letter, it reads as though the commission is the parent of the mayor and the police department, and the chief is basically telling the commission that she did nothing wrong, that the mayor didn't tell her what the mayor was doing, and that it seemed like they were on totally different pages when you read her letter. And the commission is again the parent in the middle to decipher what happened here. And what they failed to do, and what we're demanding, is the chief of police should be telling us why didn't her officers collect evidence. When they finally did collect semen, a condom with semen in it, lube, a bloody sheet, and a pill that we think could have been used to kill Lauren Smith Fields, why isn't the chief of police talking about where's that evidence now? It was collected on the 18th, and we made them collect it. Excuse me, it was collected on the 29th of December, based on the fact that we forced them to collect it. As we sit here today, we don't know where that evidence is. Why isn't the chief of police writing to tell us where's that evidence? Why hasn't it been preserved? We don't care about their little infighting. We want to know where is the evidence, what investigation is being done, and even tell us why those two officers were suspended, not just the fact that they were suspended.
The commission that you allude to, for those of us outside of the Bridgeport or Connecticut area, how is this commission made up? Is this an elected commission? Is this an appointed commission? And we ask because these are public officials, and ultimately they're accountable and responsible to the public. So if the public isn't having meaningful input on how the official decision makers regarding the public are being chosen, then we need to ask some serious questions as to how the powers are working in Bridgeport. How is that commission put together?
So the commission is made up, from my understanding, of members of the community, and they don't run elections to be elected, but I believe they're appointed largely by the mayor. Once the commission's in place, the commission has to answer to the mayor in large part, and the commission is responsible and in charge of the police department. And so if there's any disciplinary action that needs to take place, it will go before the commission. So in this particular case, Maria Pereira, who's a city councilwoman who's been instrumental in this case, has made it clear that the commission is largely sitting without proper authority. So it further highlights that Bridgeport as a city is in a shambles right now. If the commission is not properly seated, if the acting chief of police is not properly seated, and the acting police chief is at odds with the mayor, then we have more of a problem than we think.
And from listening to what you're saying so far, it sounds like we have the acting police chief, we have this commission that's appointed by the mayor that seemingly is in flux. The only publicly accountable office seems to be the mayor. And it seems as though you all are rightly directing some frustrations to the mayor's office. What have you guys been receiving from the mayor's office as you begin to make obviously initially your petitions, but now that they've been stonewalling to a degree, more of your assertive demands? What type of response have you gotten?
Well, and you raise a great point. So if the only person that we can go to is the mayor, then we have to look at how this week has played out. Initially, when this 4-page letter from the acting chief was submitted to the commission, myself, the media, City Councilwoman Maria Pereira requested a copy of this. And we were told that the mayor has a policy that no department head can speak to the press or anyone else without the mayor's permission. The mayor then later sent me a text stating that that's not true, and he immediately forced them to release the letter to the press, which did happen. But now the mayor has still not told us where is the evidence that was collected from the apartment. The mayor still hasn't told us that these two officers who were suspended for doing X, Y, and Z. And we need to know that. Also, the mayor still hasn't told us or the family when we can sit down and meet with him and the police chief to go over the issues that we have directly. And we're waiting for that moment.
I'm going to bring the panel in. We have a panel. I want to ask some questions. I'm going to bring them in just a second. But I have one more question for you, Mr. Crossland, before I go to the panel. Bridgeport is a city that is about 40% white, about 36% African-American, if I'm not mistaken. Normally, when we have that type of ethnic or racial diversity, we can be more optimistic that justice is allocated along the lines of equity and fairness much differently than we can in what we're hearing from you. We also know that Bridgeport is under federal investigation or concern for the practices and patterns of their police department. What type of optimism can Black Americans in Bridgeport or in the Connecticut area hold, knowing that even with such great demographic representation, we are still being treated as second-class citizens, as evidenced by what you all are working through and the patterns and practice that the police department is existing under?
That's a great question, and I have to note that Bridgeport is the largest city in the state of Connecticut, and it is predominantly minority. It's the largest minority population. And what I think we have to be mindful of is the fact that just because you have more minority in a particular jurisdiction doesn't mean that the leadership reflects the population. Doesn't mean that the police department reflects the population. In this particular case, it's the opposite. And we need to do better recruitment in police departments who police largely minority communities. So we're not optimistic for the fact that there's more minorities in this particular city. What we really need is a change in government, and a government that's reflective of the people that it serves. So we're not optimistic right now. It's been months now, and we've been banging on the door of City Hall to do more. And the whole world has been looking at this. Can you imagine if this wasn't the case, how we would just be disregarded? So we want this to stay in the public light, and we're demanding that justice be served for Lawrence Smith Fields and Brenda Lee Rawls.
We are fortunately joined by two guests, our panelists as well. Dr. Omekongo Dibanga, a professional lecturer at the School of International Service at American University. We're also joined by the Reverend Jeff Carr, who is the spiritual leader and the founder of the Infinity Fellowship. Reverend Carr and Dr. Dibanga, if you guys have any questions, feel free to offer you to Mr. Crossland right now. I'll start with you, Reverend Carr, if you have a question for Mr. Crossland.
Oh. Sure, I do. First off, congratulations to you, Attorney Crossland, for staying in the struggle. And I want to thank you for putting yourself on the line. We talked on the show a lot about the large number of attorneys that are in the world. There are more attorneys in the world today than there are sands on any given beach. But there are very few who will stand up and stand in the gap. So I want to congratulate you for that and let you know that your struggle is not going to be in vain. We're speaking victory to your cause here. When we talk about the resignation of the police chief, and we talk about the two council people who have come together to join with the community voices, is that enough? Is it a short-term plan to say, here's a stair step? But what's the long-term victory that we hope to secure here, and how can we help, including mentioning the public hearing that's coming up tomorrow?
But thank you for the question, and it's an honor to even have you ask me that question, because I always watch Roland Martin, and you're in the bumper where you said, open your eyeballs. And that always sticks in my head. So that's just such a catchphrase to me. So every day I wake up, I try to open my eyeballs to see what's going on around here. And so to your point about the attorneys, it's very valid, because when this case first broke, I sat in my conference room with myself and the family, Chantel Fields, and we had an attorney that came in. And I wanted that attorney to handle mostly the civil matters. It's a white attorney who I know for a while. And he was supposed to come to the press conference, and the family said he just looked shook when we discussed the kind of struggle that we had. And the morning of the press conference, he texted me and said, it's Sunday. I don't think I want to come out. Plus, I have a practice to worry about in terms of my, reputation, et cetera. And so what we find is that it's very incestuous in these towns. And so unless you have some semblance of courage, a lot of people don't fight this fight the way we've been fighting it. So I thank you for your compliment. Well, we're hoping, and by the way, I would say to you, if your audience doesn't know, the top prosecutor, Richard Colangelo, of the whole state of Connecticut, was forced to retire this week as well. So in addition to what's going on in Bridgeport, the prosecutor is forced to retire because he was engaged in some pay-to-play and some fraudulent behavior. And he's always been that way. So we have a real uphill battle when you look at what we're dealing with in terms of the landscape. But what we're hoping for is, in this particular case, is that black women like Lawrence Smith Fields and Brenda Lee Rawls, and there's another woman who is missing up in Manchester, 22-year-old black girl gone missing, and the police is not doing anything up there. What we're hoping for is that these women all come together, and we're trying to put them under one umbrella, and we can at least start now making sure that this doesn't happen in the future. We also have to have them pay economically. So we filed a $30 million lawsuit to say, well, we're done with the lip service. We need justice to look like an economic payout for us. And all week, this week, we've been looking at an NFT for social justice causes. So we're trying to even start an NFT under Lawrence Smith Fields and Brenda Lee Rawls' name, where money can go into a place for social justice causes like these. And when the city fails to investigate or fails to do their job, that we as a collective, black, whites, Latins, Asians who believe in justice, could have a pool of money where we can go out and do our own investigations if we have to. It's like the Black Panther days. Sometimes we have to police the police. And so we're really working hard in this particular case to go way beyond just, asking the police to do something. We have to take control.
Dr. Dibanga, I want to give you the space also to ask Attorney Crossland a question should you have one. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Attorney Crossland, for all of your tireless work on this. We've been watching you since you've come on, and all of the statements that you made. We really appreciate what you've been doing to bring this to the forefront. You've mentioned how the family wants this case to be taken over by the Justice Department, which we definitely hope happens. I'm also wondering, though, is there any role that the governor can play, and if there's any pressure that we can also put on the governor to also intervene in this matter?
That's a great question, and I was on the Lisa Wexler show. She's a probate judge here in Connecticut. She also has an AM show, and we talked about that. And I said to the audience, which is largely a Connecticut audience, that this is the largest city in the state of Connecticut. The whole world's been looking at this city saying something went wrong there. Yet still, we haven't heard from the governor. So we do need to put pressure on the governor to step in and say, this is unacceptable. So it's really strange to me that you have the mayor that took so long. When people were reaching out to us from Hawaii, from across the country, the mayor took a very, very long time to speak up. We had to march on City Hall before he spoke up. And yet still, now the governor who's in the state, if they can hear us from Hawaii, I'm sure the governor can hear us from Hartford, Connecticut, the capital. And I'm wondering, and he lives in Greenwich, office in Hartford, why aren't you reaching out here? Why aren't you doing something here? So you raised a very good question, and I haven't reached out to him, but we're going to be pushing on his door as well, because it's unacceptable.
Especially, Attorney Crossland, considering how much we are told, nationally anyway, that Democrats are our friends.
Folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?